Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to look at another terrible case with you, the Summer Baldwin case. In the field of criminal investigations, experts frequently link crimes that share similar characteristics together, resulting in the identification and apprehension of serial offenders who can take years to identify. Most criminals have experienced abuse and violence as children, and some have varied degrees of mental illness. However, they are conscious of their actions to the outside world. These people frequently appear completely normal, to the point where those around them are unaware that they are dealing with a merciless killer. This was the case with Rosendo Rodriguez, a young man who was quiet on the outside and took two young women's life brutally and disposed of their bodies in an especially ostentatious and unusual fashion. Looking forward, I will state that this man was rightfully punished for his horrible deeds, but let's go back to the beginning to comprehend this convoluted and complex case. Discover more about his vicar and delve into the criminal's early years to comprehend how he changed from a naked beauty in a suitcase to a monster. This terrifying story started on September 13, 2005, on the outskirts of Lockhart, Texas. A utility worker from the city was going about his usual business at a nearby landfill when he noticed an odd object among the usual assortment of colorful trash. A large black suitcase that seemed strangely intact and bulky. His curiosity piqued, so he opened the suitcase. Fright. When he opened it, the first thing he noticed was a woman's well-groomed hand. He was first shocked to see that the body inside the suitcase was a real human being rather than a doll or mannequin. When he fully opened it, he saw that the young woman's body was naked. The worker instantly stopped the garbage truck that had brought the grisly suitcase, pulled her knees up to her chest, and called the cops. The dump was rapidly sealed off, and the truck and its contents were carefully inspected to look for any clues in a sizable city dump. Fear. The first thing he saw when he opened it was a woman's well-manicured hand. Upon realizing that the body within the luggage was a human being instead than a doll or mannequin, he was initially taken aback. The young woman's body was exposed as he fully opened it. The worker pulled her knees up to her chest, contacted the police, and immediately stopped the garbage truck that had brought the monstrous suitcase. Quick action was taken to shut up the dump, and the truck and its contents were thoroughly examined in an attempt to find any hints within a large city dump. Summertime. With high hopes for her future, Lee Baldwin, also known as Summer Baldwin, was born in 1976 in Washington. She was a bright student with a lively personality and many friends who dreamed of an acting career. After graduating from high school, Summer enrolled in a community college but found her studies there challenging. Her friends invited her to Texas for a change of scenery and opportunities. With her parents' support, Summer moved to Leck, hoping to start over. It is unclear when Summer's life spiraled, but she gradually, when Summer Baldwin passed away tragically in September 2005, the details they gave about her friends and hangouts were sparse. However, just a few months prior to her death, Summer was a crucial witness in a significant federal counterfeiting case, which raised suspicions that a criminal gang may have been responsible for her murder. This led the FBI to take the investigation more seriously, and Rebecca, Summer Baldwin's best friend, was one of the first suspects to be questioned by the police. Rebecca revealed Summer's profession and listed a number of her partners, one of whom acted Summer's ex-boyfriend was arrested and brought to the station the same day, but he categorically denied his involvement in the case. In addition, he appeared genuinely shocked and upset by the news of her death. He had a solid alibi the night before the tragedy. He had been involved in an intoxicated brawl in a bar and had spent the night in a cell with another troublemaker. As a result, the police had to release the first and only suspect at that time. He had a solid alibi, the time another friend, or rather colleague of the deceased, gave the investigation much more crucial information. According to a woman named Marguerite, she saw Samur the night before the murder, and they even exchanged a few words. On September 11th, Marguerite reported, a young, fit man with a Latino appearance got out of a red van and went inside the store, probably to shop. Meanwhile, Summer saw her friend emerge from the passenger side of the van to greet her, and she informed Marguerite that he was her client, whom she had been seeing for the second time in recent days. Summer hurried back into the van Marjorie and went about her business. not knowing where the couple planned to have their rendezvous or which direction the van would drive off in. She also added that she had never seen the man before and assumed he was not a local. The only description she could give was that he had very short hair, akin to a military man because of the darkness outside and her inability to see him clearly. What was wrong with the suitcase? The suitcase that turned into the young woman's coffin had a strange appearance on the outside. It was covered in trash and waste, but it wasn't worn out and its wheels looked brand new. Inside, all of the tags were still attached. It was determined that suitcases of this brand were sold in dozens of stores throughout the city. But this particular large model was only available in 2 stores thanks to the perfectly preserved barcode. It was also discovered that a pair of identical suitcases were sold the day before the grim discovery at a Walmart store in the same area of the city where the girl was. The suitcases were in perfect condition, and the lining looked as though the item was brand new. Additionally, even the plastic attachment for the price tag was intact, suggesting that the person who bought the suitcase hadn't removed it. Last observed living. The first purchase was made in the afternoon, and the second around 2 in the morning. This was quite strange, so suspicious police officers went there right away and demanded the store's surveillance footage. After looking over the information, they discovered that the first suitcase had been purchased by an elderly couple. Although they weren't initially suspicious, they were able to present the suitcase and explain that they had purchased it for a vacation. The second suitcase, on the other hand, had been purchased by a young man with an athletic build, short hair. The man became suspicious that this was the person who had been described by the witness who had seen him with the deceased girl in the supermarket parking lot. In addition, he had purchased a pair of disposable gloves at the checkout. More evidence was provided by the external surveillance cameras that were mounted in the parking lot of the store. These showed the man leaving with the suitcase in hand and loading it into a red van. Several coincidences gave the police hope that they had located their man. All that remained was to confirm his identity, locate him, and bring him in for questioning. The man was very cautious when using cash, instead of a card to avoid leaving any personal information, but he failed to consider the security cameras in the parking lot, which captured his car's license plate number precisely. Police quickly identified the vehicle as a rental in the name of U.S. Marine Corps reservist Rosendo Rodriguez, who had no criminal history and had not previously come to their attention. Rodriguez had been in LCK for a few days with his unit for training, so it was difficult to find him right away because he wasn't at the hotel where his unit stayed. But after obtaining his information, they were able to identify Rodriguez as most likely the cash used to purchase the gloves and suitcase. Rodriguez hadn't stayed at the hotel where he used the ATM. Instead, someone with the same name, Thomas Rodriguez, who fit Rodriguez's description, had checked in on September 11th. Fortunately for the investigation, the hotel room Rodriguez had rented, which he had already checked out, hadn't been cleaned yet, yielding vital evidence. There were dried, blood-like brown stains and splatters on the walls and carpet, and a tag from a new suitcase was discovered next to the discarded gloves and used contraception were found in the bed and trash. There was no doubt that they had found the murderer because forensic analysis proved that the dried blood in the room belonged to Summer, and that the DNA on the contraceptives and gloves matched both Summer and Rodriguez. However, since Rodriguez had already left the city, it was easy to track him down because they had all the information needed. Reports indicate that Rosendo Rodriguez III was born on March 26, 1980, in Wichita Falls, Texas, into a low-income Mexican immigrant family. Early in life, Rosendo was subjected to abuse and harsh treatment. His father, who was described as aggressive and domineering, battled alcoholism and frequently abused his wife and children. Rosendo also showed aggression as a child, frequently picking fights at school. But as he grew older, he learned to control his anger. Following high school, he moved out of his parents' house to live independently and attend Texas Tech University. He worked a variety of jobs, such as office clerk and courier at a pizzeria, before deciding to enlist in the U.S. Marine Corps. His fellow service members described Rodriguez as calm, collected, disciplined, and responsible. Friend who is always willing to lend a hand. He is well liked by ladies due to his physical attractiveness and education. Rodriguez was taken into custody on September 15th at his San Antonio home by police. When they searched his home, they discovered that he was wearing striped shorts and a shirt that matched the outfit he had on when he bought the suitcase that had been captured on camera. They also confiscated his laptop and cell phone. During the initial weeks of the interrogation process, Rodriguez remained silent and denied any involvement in the Summer Baldwin murder. But the evidence against him was so strong that, on the advice of his attorney, he began making statements with his account of events that was considerably different from the forensic analyst's imagined scenario. Beginning his explanation, Rodriguez stated that he had mistakenly reserved a hotel apart from his fellow servicemen. He only knew the name of the hotel chain they were supposed to stay at, so he chose a hotel at random. When he checked in, he discovered the others were at a different location, but he decided not to move because the military leadership said it wasn't necessary. Rodriguez also neglected to explain why he registered on September 10th morning under a different name. That evening, Rodriguez claimed to have met Summer Baldwin by chance. Rosendo drove her home the following morning, but they agreed to meet in the evening. He picked her up at the same location around 9:09 p.m., and they went to a supermarket where Summer saw her friend Marjorie. They then went back to the hotel where Rodriguez said there was something going on. According to him, he saw a blonde woman sitting on a bench by the road, covering her face with her hands as if she was crying. He stopped to check if she was okay and needed help. They struck up a conversation after she calmed down. After they had some mutually consenting intimacy, Rodriguez claimed that Summer turned hostile and started requesting money, which shocked him because he had no idea he was with a call girl. When he refused, she allegedly took a knife out of her purse and started threatening him. He disarmed her and punched her in the face, breaking her nose. Summer collapsed on the bed, convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Rodriguez claims he tried to help her, but refrained from mouth-to-mouth resuscitation because of the blood and foam on her face. After a minute, she stopped breathing, realizing she was dead. He panicked and went to the hospital. Rodriguez claims he did not intend to harm her, but acted in self-defense moments later. The closest store purchased a suitcase and gloves, went back to the hotel, and knowing that her body would be taken to the landfill the following morning, threw it in the dumpster. He then checked out of the hotel, gave the rental car back, and drove home to San Antonio as if nothing had happened. Irregularities in the suspect story. Marjorie, who met Summer in the parking lot the night of the crime, claimed that Summer explicitly informed her that the man was one of her clients with whom they had previously had a paid meeting. Rodriguez maintains that everything between them was consensual. These discrepancies quickly led investigators to conclude that Rodriguez was lying. Although Rodriguez claimed that he only hit Summer in the face once to calm her down before she passed away from a seizure, evidence found on her body suggests that she was taken advantage of. In addition, autopsy found about 30 fresh bruises on Baldwin's head and body the night of the crime, and several stab wounds. Furthermore, she was still alive when he packed her in the suitcase, refuting his claim that she was already dead. During an investigation at Rodriguez's residence, police seized his laptop computer and reviewed his search. History showed a troubling pattern. In the 3 days leading up to his arrest, Rodriguez actively looked for information about a girl named Summer, keeping track of whether her body had been discovered in a landfill and whether there was an ongoing search for her. Interestingly, Rodriguez also looked for Joanna on a regular basis. When authorities offered Rodriguez a plea deal in exchange for information about Joanna's fate, a deal that included a reduced sentence and avoided the death penalty, he reluctantly accepted and related his story of meeting Joanna in high school. Catherine Rogers, a 16-year-old from LKK who went missing a year and a half ago, a student in LCK, in late April 2004. After a few meetings, they went to his hotel room on May 4th. The situation turned tragic when, in a panic, Rodriguez covered Joanna's mouth to silence her and unintentionally caused her death. In a desperate attempt to get rid of the body, Rodriguez put it in his own suitcase and threw it in a dumpster. This is how Summer's body was disposed of. A year and a half later, Rodriguez initially admitted to these actions but later recanted his testimony, claiming coercion. Joanna's body to support the allegations. More than a year after police conducted a thorough search of the city landfill, They miraculously discovered a suitcase holding Joanna's bones, despite her grave decomposition. The identification of the remains was verified via DNA testing. In spite of the overwhelming evidence and the seriousness of his crimes, defendant Rosendo Rodriguez hoped to be charged with a serial offender who committed similar terrible crimes, with a consistent modus operandi trial verdict and execution owing to this evidence. Escaped the death penalty until the very last minute in the hopes of receiving a life sentence with the possibility of parole. But the court determined that, in any case, Summer Baldwin's 3-month pregnancy at the time of her tragic death was a decisive factor. As a result, the court found Rodriguez guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to death by lethal injection. While in prison awaiting execution, Rodriguez and his attorneys attempted numerous appeals, citing mistakes and wrongdoing by investigators, but each one was denied. Rodriguez even ran his own blog about politics and criminal justice problems on March 27, 2018. Almost 10 years after his horrible crimes were found guilty, Rodolfo Rodriguez was finally put to death. This happened the day after his 38th birthday, and the execution took place in the Huntsville prison in Texas. It was the 7th execution in the country overall, and the 4th in Texas in 2018. Thank you for watching, people. Please remember to hit the bell and subscribe to the channel. There are a lot of scary stories. Music in advance.